In this video, I'll walk you through the 12 decisions that make or break your sauna project in the right order. Purpose and use pattern, location on your property, indoor versus outdoor, legal versus utilities check, room size and layout, ceiling height and bench geometry, heater type, electric versus wood, heater size, ventilation strategy, waterproofing and drainage, water handling, materials and finishes, and budget, where to save and where to never cheap out. And I've put this into a simple Sketch-to-Steam PDF playbook that you can download and fill in as you go, so you're not trying to keep all 12 steps in your head. I'm Veeti, a Finnish sauna expert, and I've helped thousands of Americans go from Pinterest sketch to an actual Finnish feeling sauna. You'll see these same 12 boxes in the Sketch-to-Steam Playbook you can download, so you can literally tick them off for your own project. Decision 1. Purpose and use pattern. Before you draw anything, answer, who is this sauna for? Is it just for you and your partner, your family, or your guests? How often will you realistically use it? A couple times a month or most days? If you only ever use sauna alone, a huge glass cube may be a bit overkill. If you have a family of 5 plus friends, a tiny 4x4 box will be miserable. Your purpose decides the rough size of the sauna, the bench layout of the sauna, whether you want more social layout or most like solo type layout, and how much it's worth investing into this thing. There is a section for this at the top of the playbook. You can fill it in as you go. Decision 2. Location on your property. Next, where on your property will this sauna live? Typical options include inside a bathroom, basement, spare room, or garage corner. Attached outdoor sauna, pump out from the house on the deck, or separate outdoor sauna, backyard cabin, near a plunge or pool. Here you are thinking about the walking path to the sauna. Do you have wet feet, towels, winter, your proximity to water, like shower, house, lake, proximity to power, where is your panel, how do your conduits run to it, and privacy and views from the sauna. There is no right answer. Some people love a short walk inside and have the sauna right next to their shower room. Some people love going out into the snow. The point is, decide where it lives and then design for that reality. Decision number 3. Indoor versus outdoor sauna. Now we choose indoor sauna or outdoor sauna. With indoor sauna, the pros are that it's short walk away, it's easy to use daily, it has a shared wall with existing plumbing and electrical, and often it's simpler to build in harsh climates. The cons of having an indoor sauna are that it's more work when it comes to waterproofing and vapor sealing, and there is more risk when it comes to handling the heat and humidity. Then let's talk about outdoor saunas. The pros are that it's more freedom on size and height, and it's simpler drainage, especially on a slab. And you can do a wood fired without having a smoke in your living room. The cons of an outdoor sauna are that it needs its own structure and roof, and it's exposed to weather, so you plan for that. Most people already have a bias here. Acknowledge it, then commit. It changes almost every decision after this. Tick the indoor-outdoor box in the playbook and stick with it. Decision number 4. Legal and utilities check. This is very boring but crucial consideration. Do you need permits for a structure, electrical, or plumbing? What's the state of your electrical panel? How many free breaker spaces do you have? What's the main service size? Do you have 100 amp or 200 amp service? Can you actually run a 240 volt line where your sauna is sitting? This is the checkpoint where you talk to your electrician and, if needed, to your local building office. If you ignore this boring legal stuff and buy everything first, the worst case is that you discover you need a panel or service upgrade after you've already committed to a big heater. That can easily be an unexpected 5 to 10k USD hit with a bad luck. In the playbook, there is a little utilities check section. Use it to jot down what your electrician tells you. Decision number 5, room size and layout. Now we talk dimensions and layout. Start with the inside clear dimensions of the hot room. Length times width times current ceiling height. We'll refine the height next. Consider door position, possible window positions, and match this to decision 1. Mostly solo, 4x6 to 5x6 can easily be well enough. Going to sauna with family and friends often, aim for 6x8 or even bigger. Want to lie down? You need at least one 6 feet bench length in one direction. Then pick an initial bench layout. Single I bench on the back wall, L bench with the return, opposing benches, double I for facing each other. Right now, you are just roughing in the footprint and flow. In the playbook, you'll see a blank overhead box where you can sketch this. Decision 6. Ceiling height and bench geometry. Now we bring in the geometry from the other video. Feet above the stones, 15 to 18 inches between the foot bench and top bench, and from the top bench to ceiling 40 to 48 inches. Use those numbers to choose a target ceiling height, often optimally between 7 feet 6 inches to 8 feet. Remember, set your foot bench level at stone height, then stack your top bench and your head pocket. This is where 90% of US saunas go wrong. They choose a 7-foot ceiling and one bench at 18 inches, then blame the heater when it feels weak when the heat lives above the bathers' heads. At this step, you should be able to draw a side profile, write exact heights for top of the stones, foot bench, top bench and ceiling. If this doesn't work, fix it now, not after tile and glass are ordered. And importantly, if you can't build it 8 feet high, it's still better to have 6 or 7 feet high sauna than no sauna at all. There are a lot of things you can do to make low sauna great. You just have to account for it. If you want a video specifically on low ceiling sauna design, let me know in the comments and I can make that. The playbook has a side view box and a small table where you can plug in those 4 heights. Decision 7. The heater type, electric versus wood-fired. Once you know the room and geometry, decide the type of your sauna heater, not a brand. Electric is best for indoor use, it's easy to use daily, it has all the timers and Wi-Fi capabilities. It needs a proper 240 volt circuit though. Wood-fired heater is best for outdoor separate buildings, it offers the most traditional and beautiful steam we Finns call löyly, but it needs chimney, clearances and wood storage, and some states or some counties won't allow you to put a wood-fired heater into your existing location. When picking the category of your heater, whether wood-fired or electric, pick one that fits your location, so check back on your decisions 2 and 3, and then pick one that fits your electrical panel, which was your decision 4. Then think about your tolerance for effort. Do you want to be loading wood versus just pressing a button to get your sauna up and running? There is a simple checkbox in the playbook to lock this in before you go heater shopping. Decision 8. Heater size. Now you size the heater to the room, not the other way around. Calculate the cubic feet of the hot room. Then add corrections for poor insulation or loads of cold surfaces like glass, tile or stone. You can use our sauna heater size calculator at thesaunaheater.com to help you determine the exact size for the heater you need. Then follow the manufacturer's chart to select the correct kW value, so the size of your sauna heater. We call it kilowatts. When picking a heater, you're aiming for a size where stones get fully charged in 45 to 60 minutes and you have enough power that you don't have to run at 100% just to stay warm. Do not oversize wildly just because. You will end up with the microwave. Loads of radiant blast, but not soft, stable heat. But do not undersize either, because an undersized heater means that you have a sauna that never feels truly hot, or a heater that's running flat out all the time and will end up breaking prematurely. In the playbook, there is a box for room volume and target kW. Fill those in after you run the calculation. Decision number 9, your ventilation strategy. With the heater fixed, decide how the air will move. You can have either gravity-based ventilation, where your intake is generally just above or near the heater depending on your heater model, and then you have your exhaust vent across the room between the benches. And lastly, you have your third vent, which is your optimal drying vent somewhere high up on the wall that you open after the session. Or if you don't want to go gravity-based, you don't want to guess, you go with mechanical ventilation. You have same intake near the heater and exhaust under your foot bench, but you add a fan on the exhaust for controlled airflow and faster drying. Those are the options for electric heater ventilation. Then for wood burning, you have the firebox and chimney already pulling some air out of the sauna. You still want a thought-through intake and often a drying vent for after the session. Design this on paper. Size of vents. As a rule of thumb, a 6-inch diameter works well for small to medium-sized saunas. Exact locations in the walls, you can draw it in there, and straight short duct runs wherever possible. Good ventilation is what makes 180 Fahrenheit feel clean and breathable instead of suffocating. The playbook has a little diagram where you can mark intake, exhaust and drying vent locations. Decision number 10, waterproofing, drainage and water handling. Now we lock in how water leaves the room. For indoor, think that you build it like a shower. You have proper slope to a drain, about 1 to 100 or bit more. And then you have waterproofing membrane on the floor and up the walls. Remember to seal the floor-wall transitions carefully. When it comes to outdoor saunas, this is a bit more simple. You still want some sort of a slope to your floor and some form of drain or clear exit path. Even with wood floors on outdoor saunas, think about where the sweat and water go and how the floor actually dries between sessions. This step decides whether your sauna ages beautifully or quietly rots your house or cabin from the inside. In the playbook, note drain, yes, no, type and location, plus your slope plan. Decision number 11, materials and finishes. Now we finally talk about wood, tile and glass. Firstly, we have the interior, benches and backrest. Good materials for benches and backrests include aspen, alder, spruce or thermally modified versions of those. Those are comfortable to sit on, low resin and good in heat. For the walls and ceiling materials, some species of spruce, softwood paneling or cedar, depending on what's available in your budget and location. Avoid heavy paints and lacquers. Let the wood breathe. Then let's talk about tile and stone. Those are great on floors and as accent walls, but avoid them as primary surface where people lean or sit. They get very hot and feel harsh compared to wood. Glass, that's beautiful, but it adds some heat loss and it affects your heater sizing. Keep it reasonable and always coordinated with your heater calculations. This is also where the lighting decisions live. Indirect warm and out of your eyes rather than spotlights in your face. Use the materials section in the playbook to list what kind of materials you're actually planning for. What materials will you use for your benches, your walls and your ceilings, to your floors, and will you add any glass? Then you can build from there yourself or give the playbook to your contractor or a sauna designer like the one that we work with. Decision 12. Budget and where to save versus where to never cheap out. Now you pull it all together into money. Line items that matter most. Structure, framing and insulation. Water handling. Waterproofing and drainage if indoor. Thoughtful water exit if outdoor. Heater and controls. Benches and interior wood. Electrical and if needed, plumbing. Glass and doors. So out of this list, where you don't cheap out is your heater, your waterproofing and vapor sealing, especially if you have an indoor sauna, your benches because you touch them every single time, so material matters. Areas where you can scale up or down depending on your budget. Amount of glass, exterior cladding style, fancy lighting and accessories. I'll do a separate video breaking down real-world US projects with line items using examples from actual builds, so you get an idea how much does it cost to build your sauna. So if you want to see what did this 6x8 build cost, that's coming. In the playbook, there is a simple budget table where you can rough in each of these categories. If you feel less overwhelmed now, that's the point. You don't have to make 50 decisions at once when building your sauna. You just have to make the right one next. To make this easier, I have put these 12 decisions in the simple Sketch-to-Steam Playbook you can download from down below. It follows this exact order. It has little diagrams and boxes for your numbers, and by the time you have filled it in, you basically have your sauna spec done. You will find the Sketch-to-Steam Playbook linked in the description and pinned comment. If you want to go deeper into any specific step, watch the dimension/bench geometry video for decision 6. Watch the ventilation masterclass for decision 9. Watch the floor/waterproofing video for decision 10. If you're stuck somewhere between the steps and want help, you can always reach out to our sauna expert team at thesaunaheater.com or post inside the Sauna Society and tag one of our experts or me. Comment below and tell me which decision are you stuck on right now, and are you building an indoor or outdoor sauna? That will help me know what to film next. Thanks for watching and enjoy your load.